in this video, I'll be talking about the core concepts of business analysis. Please remember the very first video of this particular introduction to business analysis component of this course. Now, we had this official definition, or let's say a formal definition of business analysis. I'm going to read again. Business analysis is the practice of enabling change in an organization by defining needs, problems or opportunities, and recommending solutions, designing solutions that deliver value propositions to stakeholders in a particular context. So, in fact, all these red, bold terms there represent the core concepts that make up the business analysis, let's say, domain. They're the core concepts in this particular domain. And these core concepts describes the, let's say, business analysis profession and domain of business analysis, and it helps us to communicate about business analysis with a common language. Good, let's look at each one of them. But beforehand, let's take a kind of running example with us, which I believe would help us to understand these concepts better. Remember the very first video, and we were discussing about some scenarios and real-life scenarios. In this case, let's take the first one, where we have this city and it's suffering from excessive traffic due to increased number of cars hanging around in the urban areas. Now, the need, which is basically the problem, as well as opportunities sometimes, that should be addressed. And in this particular scenario, the excessive traffic due to the increased vehicles around the city, around the urban area, is what our problem is. And that's the problem rather than an opportunity, as you can imagine. Now, the solution, obviously, there can be many solutions that could address this particular need, or a part of this particular need. For instance, we can think of promoting scooters in urban areas and supporting companies which rent scooters in this case. So that could be one of the solutions that we can pick. Okay, but we need to take into consideration the context as well, which is very important. For instance, if you're in a city without a bike path, this solution might be very difficult to implement. Also, if you're in a city with significant slopes in the urban areas, for instance, in some parts of France or Italy, that can as well be a very difficult solution, or it might not be as effective as we think it would. Value proposition. Value proposition is basically is the worth or is importance or usefulness of something to a stakeholder, again within a particular context. So in this scenario, let's assume that you have, you can, as a user, you can basically rent or reserve a scooter with your smart device in an urban area, and you can just you use it, and you can just leave it wherever, anywhere in an urban area. And that is, that would be a very hassle-free, let's say, scooter rental solution, and your value proposition would be, in this case, hassle-free scooter rental for the citizens in a particular city. In fact, that's your customer segment in this case. Stakeholders, you cannot offer any value proposition though if you fail to involve stakeholders, or or consider the specific needs and perspectives of all the stakeholders that are involved in the solution. So the solution has a major value proposition, in this case hassle-free scooter rental, but you still have to consider the perspectives of many other stakeholders here in this very particular scenario, in fact. So, for instance, the municipality, which should somehow arrange the physical infrastructure for these scooters, or issue laws and regulations to promote some certain policies for this solution to work effectively. Scooter producers, for instance, that you need to also somehow have to consider their perspectives there. They need to be aligned, or perhaps more importantly, the companies that will maintain the scooters, because scooters will be, as you can imagine, will be quite so they need to be very robust, in fact, to be used by anyone. So they will require a lot of maintenance. So you need to take into consideration perspectives of all these companies. And obviously you need another company which would, let's say, orchestrate, bring all these stakeholders together, and what we call a focal organization or an orchestrator. We also have to consider that as well. So basically there are various stakeholders that need to come together, and the solution can be effective only if the perspective of all stakeholders are somehow balanced and considered. So it's not only the technology but also the business side of it, communication, and bringing everyone together along the same in the same objective. So finally we have a need. Finally we have the change. And when we have a need, to which we deliver a solution that would offer a value proposition to a set of stakeholders in a particular context in which it works well, then it's very, very likely that we need to do a change somewhere in the environment. And in many cases, this change is not just IT change or a change that involves IT, but also processes, organizational structures, and sometimes even cultures, which need to be managed as well. But okay, these were the very core concept of business analysis that we'll spend a little bit more time later on in other videos. But for now, see you later.